There was no questioning the halfback cum hooker's commitment in one of the games of his life. Maroons and one-time Australian hooker Steve Walters testing Johns out.
Where I was supposed to put my head, normally there's a big gap, and there was only a gap about that big, and I was thinking, oh, hang on, his eyes were popping in his head. No, I grabbed Chief and said, hey, look after me, Chiefer.
The Man of the Match award puts Johns in the running for the Player of the Series and a footballer's dream, a year's supply of beer.
I don't know, I could come back at 120 kilo next year if I win that and get a few more friends. Good parties on my joint.
Even the Prime Minister was giving Johns a rap.
Yeah, I thought he played very, very well.
Paul Harrigan was a little groggy after the match after copping that big hit, and he's only a 50-50 chance to play the Crushers on Sunday. He has, however, been selected. The Crushers' Tony Hearns is also in doubt. Johns, Muir and Ainscough all got through unscathed. All the Knights will be at Marathon Stadium early tomorrow morning for a special breakfast with the fans. Peter Ryan, NBN News. May 17, the Newcastle Falcons outplayed by cellar dwellers Hobart 95-93. 2 weeks later, same team, much different result. The Falcons thrashing the then competition leader, the North Melbourne Giants, 113-85. Back at training, and the Falcons, like the fans, are trying to work out the inconsistent form.
There are 8 new players in the 10, so we have to expect that there's going to be some highs and lows, ups and downs early as they come together.
We're young, inconsistent play, but we're working on that this week in practice, trying to keep our consistency up, and I think we accomplished a lot this week.
On Friday, they play Townsville. The Suns have just one win on the road in 4 matches this season. The Falcons should have the manpower to win at home. Townsville has 3 former Falcons in Rucker, Alexander and Grant Kruger. Kruger had 7 seasons with the Falcons. He should get a warm welcome back in Newcastle. Meanwhile, the team spirit is high in the Falcon camp. David Van Dyke caught with his pants down in attempting an interview.
There's never a dull moment on this team. You can't let your guard down for a second.
The grounding of the Iron Barren off Tasmania last year was a graphic reminder of the potential for an oil spill to become ecological disaster. While catastrophe on that scale is hard to combat, the Port of Newcastle is now ready to take oil and chemical spills head-on, with the establishment of a stockpile of absorbent agents to keep the water clean.
Any incident requires a thorough, quick and professional response, and the ability to stop it with booms and the ability to clean it up with sorbents that are on site quickly is most important.
The microfibre material is a state-of-the-art solution to pollution. The 3M stockpile putting Newcastle's environmental defences on a par with every major port in Australia. Meantime, World Environment Day has seen Hunter School students hard at work, many taking part in a Planet Savers workshop at the Shortland Wetlands Centre.
Okay, so that's a lot more friendly product, isn't it?
Careful shopping, organic farming, even making your own electricity. They're all on the list of possibilities when it comes to conserving resources.
The theme of the day is I can do that, so each activity is designed to show them something that they really can do in their ordinary lives to lessen our impact on the planet.
And the theme has spanned the Pacific, with the unveiling today of 2 environmental quilts, the panels prepared by students at schools in Newcastle and at sister city Arcadia in California.
get older, they last us. But I could put, if I've got a brand new battery, it would last me. They're both in connection to the same robbery, aren't they?
I believe so, yeah.
Even after countless receptions and media conferences, Barry Manilow can still be surprised, pleasantly so today when he was given the key to the city of Newcastle. 11 days away from his Newcastle show, the keyboard crooner with the dramatic profile was winning friends today, proud of a career spanning more than 30 years.
You know when I really know that I've made it? When I hear these dreadful versions of my songs in elevators, you know? Then you say, wow, these songs are gonna outlive me.
As for those who've dismissed him as a musical lightweight, the showman with a worldwide audience isn't losing any sleep.
You got to believe in the work you do, and you know, I was very fortunate to have a great record company behind me all the time, great musicians, and fans who said, don't listen to these people. We like what you do, so I would just move along.
Barry Manilow moves on to the Newcastle Entertainment Centre on Sunday week, with the Hunter Singers Group signed to help him out on a couple of the big hits. Ian Cameron, NBN News.
For the past 3 years, Professor Raoul Mortley has overseen the progress of the University of Newcastle as its Vice-Chancellor. Today, on the eve of his departure for Bond University on the Gold Coast, he looked at the university's future.
We obviously face major cuts, and I want to leave in place a process about how to address those.
Forecast cuts to the education budget will be the key to the uni's short-term future. The professor says university officials need to tackle the cuts head-on.
We need to be tough enough to do it so that there's a bit of money left over when it's finished for a little bit of new growth a year down the track.
Professor Mortley says he's enjoyed his time at the university and the challenges he's faced in that period.
The university, I think, was delayed in its development by the amalgamation warfare, and I think I've overcome a bit of that, and I think I've pushed it into facing its financial problems.
Simone Thurtell, NBN News. Chicken growers met with the Minister for Industries, John Anderson, in an attempt to stop the government opening up the chicken industry to importers. The result was not what they were hoping for.
Basically, he told the industry yesterday that he's satisfied that cooked chicken meat will be imported into Australia.
The growers say the move will not only devastate their businesses, but will also be a major threat to native wildlife, especially if overseas companies don't adhere to quarantine regulations.
There is the very real prospect that a great many of our species of native Australian birds could be decimated and wiped out.
The chicken growers say while their industry is stable now, it won't survive overseas importing. They say they're victims of international trade-offs.
If we want free and unrestricted access for beef and wheat and things like that on world markets, we basically have to destroy all of our small primary industries to achieve that.
The growers now plan to meet Tim Fisher and enlist his help. Simone Thurtell, NBN News.
Oh no, that was left over from the ball last Friday night. 1 hour.
The ward.
Yeah.
Small ones to keep here at the hospital. Right. So if you've got a kid that's sick, we're starting the launch for the bears.
Everyone know.
Yeah. We've got the paper and we've got the two TV stations.
No, there's a big investigation branches.
Yeah, to Westpac and also at the Bay.
A dragon is tattooed on Paul Henderson's back. It symbolises power, an appropriate image for a man who has come within a whisper of breaking 10 seconds for 100 metres. And in 6 weeks, Paul will be running side by side with the fastest men on earth.
To line them against Linford and Carl and all the other big names, it's a real adrenaline rush, so it's, you know, a good feeling when you line them against the best in the world.
Tomorrow he heads for Townsville to get in some race practice and trial for the individual 100 metres, with only 2 spots available in the Australian squad. It's a feat in itself the 25-year-old is even on the team after a hernia operation 13 weeks ago. But he's back, and with a new technique.
The question remains now whether or not he can hold that technique under pressure. If he can, we believe he has a chance of making a final 8 at the Olympics.
Paul Henderson already has Commonwealth Games and World Championship silver medals to his credit, a member of the Australian 4x100 relay team in 94 and 95. He's confident of going one better in 96, for Newcastle as much as Australia, at the largest sporting spectacle the world has seen. Robert Ovadia, NBN News.
Police say the video scam has been operating for the past 6 months, with the couple targeting stores in Tamworth, Glen Innes and Newcastle.
A man and a woman have been going into various video stores throughout New South Wales, and what they're actually doing is taking videos from the shelves and removing them from the store. Now, by doing this, they're actually tampering with the security system on the video and getting past the security system in the stores.
It's almost impossible to trace the videos. They could be sold through the newspaper classifieds or at garage sales. Police are warning store owners to be vigilant with their security.
Well, we're certainly asking them to look out for these two people and to assess their security system, and if they're happy with it, well, great, but if not, just to try and get a better system in.
The man is described as Caucasian, mid to late 20s, of solid build with short dark hair, a goatee beard and a moustache. The woman is described as Caucasian, also in her mid-20s, of average build with shoulder-length dark hair. Anyone with information should contact Crime Stoppers. Amanda Bolger, NBN News.
Newcastle has won 2 games this year, University just 1. That single victory coming last week. Despite the turnaround in form, the Wildfires are confident they'll defeat the visiting Blue and Golds. Uni is a young team, so is Newcastle, and Wildfires coach Keith Gollan is expecting a colourful and fast-paced game.
But I would expect the game will be played mainly in the backs. We like to run our backs, that's the way we like to play, and University are the same.
Now for a sport of an even faster pace, as Lake Macquarie gears up for the Queen's Birthday weekend Powerboat Spectacular. The Toronto Royal Motor Yacht Club is hosting the event, which will see more than 65 boats churning up the waters in a bid for the 5-litre Waggett Memorial Trophy. 18-year-old Troy Marland is back to defend his title. And round 13 of the Tooheys Cup kicks off tonight, with Toronto expected to account for Waratah. Just one other game to complete the split round, South Newcastle up against the Marlins. Robert Ovadia, NBN News.
The Falcons started out where they left off last week, surging ahead, looking way too good for Townsville. Van Dyke was scoring at will. The Falcons were putting their bodies on the line, holding on to a 52-45 lead at half-time. But the tide was turning. In the third quarter, Scott Ninnis took a knock and was taken off, and former Falcon Derek Rucker took control. Rucker finished up with 24 points, the Suns sneaking away with it 101 to 91.
Nearly every building in the Belmont Central Business District has been touched by the graffiti, the texture marks appearing on close to 40 premises. Today, volunteer police visited shopkeepers in the area in an attempt to assess the extent of the damage. Police say vandalism is becoming an increasing problem. A 16-year-old Belmont boy has been charged in connection with the latest graffiti. He's due to appear in Warramai Children's Court later this month. Meanwhile, there has been a surprising turnaround in the recorded crime rates in Newcastle. 2 weeks ago, a survey by criminologists at the University of Western Sydney named Newcastle's Central Business District as the second worst crime area in the state. Now, a survey by the Bureau of Crime Statistics and Research has not even mentioned Newcastle in the top 10 crime areas. The survey looks at sexual offences, motor vehicle theft, break, enter and steal and assault. Emma Siossian, NBN News. Clear sunny skies drew a crowd to Fort Scratchley this afternoon, the Australian Army Band setting the scene. The Newcastle Armed Forces Reenactment Group also put on a show, reminding people of days gone by. The events were in honour of the 54th anniversary of the shelling of Newcastle by the Japanese submarine I-21.
At that time, I-21 opened fire on the city of Newcastle from out in Stockton Bight, and that was at 2:17 a.m. At 2:25 a.m, Fort Scratchley opened fire in reply.
Fort Scratchley was the only fort in Australia to actually fire any shots during World War II. Today, 2 shots were fired from each gun in memory of the occasion. The main street of Merriwa in the Hunter Valley was the scene of a chapter from the region's past, as some of the activities of the area's pioneers were brought to life. Then it was time for the annual running of the sheep, as 400 sheep dressed in red leg warmers charged through the main street. The Festival of the Fleeces celebrates Merriwa's historic connection with and valuable contribution to the Australian wool industry. A parade through the main street adopted a somewhat colonial spirit, remembering a time when travel meant horses and wooden wheels. A marching band added to the festivities, while the children also got involved, bringing puppets to life. Big Dog and Miss Kim made a guest appearance, while some of the region's young dirt bike champions also took part. Once the parade was over, the festival moved to the Brindley Park Woolshed, one youngster showing off some of his skills. The Governor of New South Wales, Gordon Samuel, then officially opened the celebrations before the attention turned to the yard dog trials, the dogs doing their best to keep the sheep in line. The festival finished late yesterday afternoon. Emma Siossian, NBN News.
Port
Port Stephens Council introduced the beach vehicle permit system so they could closely regulate the use of Stockton Beach. These days, if you want to go four-wheel driving along the sand, you have to pay $5 for a day pass or $25 for a yearly ticket. But some people are still ignoring the law. According to beach users, that can be dangerous to other drivers and the environment as well.
Well, I think that in an area like this, if there's no policing, people are going to act how they like. But with some policing and maybe with some garbage facilities, it'd encourage people to take their rubbish with them.
The controls are better. The inspectors have got a better job to do, I suppose.
Rangers are keen to let people know if you don't buy a permit, you'll end up in court.
Any person who's found without the permit is either dealt with an infringement notice of $100, or we can give them a warning.
All permits can be purchased from Port Stephens Council. Simone Thurtell, NBN News.
Councillor Hayes was part of an Australian delegation to attend a United Nations conference in Istanbul. The meeting looked at ways of improving city living around the world and the need to strengthen relations between the different levels of government.
It gives us ideas as Newcastle, because it's a city in transition. Over the last 15 years we've been moving from a heavy manufacturing employment base to an information employment base. The university, the health services, finance services have become more important.
Councillor Hayes says the conference provided plenty of food for thought and highlighted the need to provide a more environmentally friendly and efficient public transport system.
So Newcastle needs to find new sources of jobs. Newcastle also needs to be more efficient in the way that it uses resources, in the way that housing's built, in the way that the form of the city is organised, in the way that transport's organised, because at the moment we're sucking in finite resources.
A follow-up United Nations conference is being held in Newcastle next June and is expected to attract more than 1,000 participants from around the world. It will focus on sustainable initiatives for cities and towns. Emma Ossian, NBN News.
As usual, Darren Price made sure the open fire was put out before the family went to bed. But at 6:30 this morning, his partner Sultana Aziz woke to the sound of crackling. They opened the bedroom door to find the house filled with smoke.
Got up and grabbed these can of drinks that we had, and so I shook them up and started spraying them over the fire, and that was, so they ran out pretty quick, so I went and grabbed a carton of milk and started throwing that over the fire.
The blaze had taken hold behind the lounge room wall near the fireplace and had spread into the ceiling. One child was injured as they fled.
Mum got up and she said, "Everyone get out, there's a fire," and I quickly jumped off the bed and I broke my arm.
The fire brigade managed to contain the blaze, believed to have been started by a stray ember.
If it wasn't for Sultana waking up, probably wouldn't have woken up because the smoke would have got us.
Darren and Aziz were treated for smoke inhalation at the Mater Hospital. Sarah Griffiths, NBN News.
Ben Melmoth is back in Australia for the American summer break, having some fun taking on his brother in one-on-one. The 22-year-old who hails from Adamstown Heights is in his third year of a scholarship playing with the University of Utah in the top college league in the United States. Ben has kept in contact with the Newcastle Falcons and he may look to a career back home in Australia.
I love Newcastle, I've always been a big fan of the Falcons, and I'm hoping to play for the Falcons and come back and
It should be in about a year or two, so we'll see what happens.
The 210-centimetre giant has had approaches from agents to look at America's NBA, possibly getting into the same league as fellow Aussie Luke Longley. Meanwhile, the Falcons are picking themselves up after the demoralising loss to Townsville last weekend. At a team meeting, the players were given a dressing down on getting on with the job.
Because we're a professional basketball team and these are the elite professional athletes, and it's a matter of putting that one behind you, learning from mistakes and getting on to the next bit.
"100 years on, and William Fleming, or Bill as he's known to his friends, is still entertaining the crowds.
See all these friends that we've got here today? It's wonderful.
Taking centre stage, he was the life of his own party. So what does it feel like to notch up the century?
Well, I'd sort of be 50 because I could get around better than I was 50 in London. You can't get a bit around too much, see? But nevertheless, we all grow old in time, don't we?
Some of Bill's 3 children, 8 grandchildren and 16 great-grandchildren helped the World War I veteran celebrate his long life. Most of them wanted to know the secret to staying so healthy. They were surprised with the answer.
You want to just take a glass of water and I'd go to bed and nothing else.
With such a simple recipe for life, Bill's sure to be around for quite a while. Simone Thurtell, NBN News. Their lives are in your hands is the message for all parents from the Child Accident Prevention Foundation. One of the best ways to protect children is to buckle them up properly every time they're in a car.
We've had cases where the car has been totally demolished and yet the child has been taken from the wreck with only just a few bruises. And these are cases in which the child has been properly restrained.
Dr. Henderson says children's car seats that are not fitted properly are useless.
And pretty well all the serious injuries were in cases where the child restraint had not been properly installed or not properly used.
Australia has one of the best child restraint records in the world, and that's the way Dr. Henderson wants to keep it. Road safety and the wearing of helmets when riding bikes or skating are also important priorities for Kids Safe. To reinforce the safety message, a group known as the Kids Safe Kids last night staged a special concert. They were assisted by some interesting friends. Simone Thurtell, NBN News. More than 60 priests gathered outside St Philip's Catholic Church at Katara this morning, all of them there to help 3 colleagues celebrate their Golden Jubilees. Fathers James Doran, Edward Troy and Brian Walsh were first ordained in 1946. Since then, they've dedicated their lives to their parishioners. Bishop Michael Malone celebrated the special Mass. In his opening address, he said how good it was to be rejoicing at such marvellous milestones. He said times have been hard for Catholic priests, especially with the recent jailing of one of their colleagues. The Pope also celebrates his Golden Jubilee this year, and Fathers Doran, Troy and Walsh have been invited to Rome in November to join him for the occasion. Simone Thurtell, NBN News.
I'm not saying. You'll enjoy that, Rosie. You loved the last picture we saw.
Bobby Jack was in Uganda.
Danny Bradley is a Scot, Rose.
I never said it was Danny Bradley. And who are you to talk, Christina Mundy? Don't you lecture me.
Everybody in town. There it is, everything in the air. We are come to Abyssinia, we are come. No bad.
Buoyed by last week's resounding victory over Sydney University, the Wildfires are not shy in casting predictions for the game this weekend.
If we run it the way we intend to run it and we can get a decent share of possession, I think we'll shock a few people.
The big names in the Greens lineup may include Wallaby stars David Campese and Ewan McKenzie, but regardless, Newcastle coach Keith Gollan believes his side can match it. In their only encounter last year, the Wicks narrowly defeated Newcastle 24-19. Also this weekend, round 11 kicks off of the Tooheys Cup. Toronto is at home to South Newcastle, the Marlins up against Central Charlestown, the Goannas with a tough encounter against Western Suburbs. Match of the round sees Curry take on Lakes, while Waratah and Maitland have been washed out. Also on the calendar this weekend, the New South Wales Masters squash titles to be held in Cardiff. And on Sunday, the Rosebuds travel south to take on Macarthur, already guaranteed of a grand final berth.